My name is Emma Richardson. I'm 32 years old, and I live in the most picture-perfect suburban neighborhood you could ever imagine. Maplewood Lane. Yeah, I know. It sounds like something out of a Hallmark movie, right? Well, it kind of is. Tree-lined streets, white picket fences, neighbors who actually know each other's names. It's the kind of place where kids still ride bikes until the streetlights come on and everyone waves when they drive by. I've lived here for 7 years with my husband David and our 8-year-old daughter Sophie. David's an architect, I'm a freelance graphic designer, and Sophie is obsessed with Christmas. Like, obsessed. She starts her countdown in August. No joke. But here's the thing about Maplewood Lane. Christmas isn't just a holiday here. It's a lifestyle, a competition, an all-consuming passion that takes over the entire neighborhood from November 1st until New Year's Day. Every single house goes absolutely insane with decorations. We're talking synchronized light shows, life-size nativity scenes, inflatable snowmen that are literally 3 stories tall. Mrs. Peterson at number 42 has a Santa sleigh on her roof with actual mechanical reindeer that move. The Johnsons have a walk-through winter wonderland in their front yard, complete with fake snow machines. And me? Well, I might have a slight problem. My house has become somewhat famous in our town. Last year we had over 2,000 LED lights, a projection system that displays snowflakes on our garage door, a 12-foot Christmas tree visible through our bay window, and a sound system that plays Christmas carols synced to our light display. But I'm not competitive or anything. Not at all. Okay, fine. Maybe a little. There's this thing called the Maplewood Christmas Cup. Yes, we literally have a trophy. Every year, the neighborhood votes on the best decorated house, and the winner gets to keep this giant golden cup. It's actually spray-painted plastic, but whatever, and bragging rights for the entire year. I've come in second place for the past 3 years. 3 years. Always losing to the Hendersons who live at the end of the street. They're nice people, but come on, their Santa is clearly store-bought. Mine is custom-made. This year was going to be different. This year I had a plan. I'd been saving up all year researching planning. I'd ordered special programmable LED strips that could create animated patterns. I'd designed a custom projection show featuring our family's photos, mixed with winter scenes. I'd even hired a professional to help install everything safely. December 1st. That's when we all start decorating. It's like an unwritten rule in Maplewood Lane. Some neighborhoods wait until after Thanksgiving, but not us. We go hard from day one. So there I was, on the morning of December 1st, standing in my front yard with my enormous to-do list, 3 cups of coffee in my system, and my game face on. David was shaking his head at me from the doorway. "Emma, it's 7 in the morning," he called out. "The stores aren't even open yet." "I'm planning, David. Visualization is key." Sophie ran out in her pajamas and winter coat. "Mom, can we put the inflatable Olaf in the front yard this year instead of the side?" "Absolutely, honey. Write it down on the list." That's when I noticed the moving truck. Now, you have to understand something about Maplewood Lane. People don't move here and then leave. It's like Hotel California. You check in, you never check out. The houses rarely go on the market, and when they do, there's usually a waiting list. The house next door to us had been owned by the sweetest elderly couple, the Martins. They'd finally moved to Florida 3 months ago to be closer to their grandkids. The house had sold surprisingly fast to some mysterious buyer who paid cash and never even came to see it in person, and now, apparently, they were moving in. "David," I called out. "The new neighbors are here." He came outside, followed by Sophie. We all stood there watching as the truck backed into the driveway. This was exciting. New neighbors meant new potential friends, new kids for Sophie to play with, and most importantly, new people to recruit for our Christmas Decoration Alliance. The more houses that went all out, the better our street looked, and the more likely we were to maintain our reputation as the best Christmas street in town. The truck stopped, and a man got out. Tall, maybe late 30s, dark hair, Nice face, but with this expression like he'd just smelled something bad. He was wearing all black jeans, black t-shirt, black jacket. In December, on Maplewood Lane, where everyone was already wearing their Santa hats and reindeer antlers. Strike one dot. Behind him came a girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old, with the same dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked around at our street with wide eyes, taking in all the houses that were already starting to sprout Christmas decorations. I plastered on my biggest, friendliest smile and walked over, hand extended. Hi, welcome to Maplewood Lane. I'm Emma Richardson, your next-door neighbor. The man looked at my hand like I was offering him a dead fish. He shook it limply and immediately let go. Ethan Winters, he said, his voice flat. This is my daughter, Chloe. Hi, Chloe, Sophie piped up. I'm Sophie. I'm 8. We're going to be neighbors. Do you want to see my room? I have a whole collection of... Chloe, help with the boxes, Ethan interrupted, already walking back to the truck. Okay, rude. But maybe he was just stressed from moving. I decided to try again. So, Ethan, welcome to the neighborhood. You moved in at the perfect time. December is when Maplewood Lane really comes alive. We have this amazing Christmas tradition. Not interested, he cut me off. I blinked. Sorry? Christmas? Not interested. Not participating. Not decorating. We're just here for a quiet place to live. There was a long, awkward silence. David raised his eyebrows at me. Sophie's mouth was literally hanging open. You're not decorating for Christmas? That's correct. But everyone decorates. I don't. It's kind of a neighborhood thing. I said no. He turned and walked back to his truck, leaving me standing there like an idiot. Chloe looked back at us apologetically before following her dad. David put his hand on my shoulder. Well, that was something. Did that really just happen? I asked. Did someone actually just move onto Maplewood Lane and say they're not doing Christmas? Apparently so. That's like moving to Hawaii and saying you don't like beaches. Emma, maybe he's got his reasons. No. This is unacceptable. This is my year, David. I can't have the house right next door looking like a black hole in the middle of Christmas wonderland. It'll ruin the whole aesthetic. Sophie tugged on my sleeve. Mom, maybe he's just grumpy from moving. Maybe once he sees how awesome Christmas is here, he'll change his mind. My 8-year-old daughter, ladies and gentlemen, already more mature than me. But she had a point. Maybe Ethan Winters just needed to see what he was missing. Maybe he'd never experienced a real neighborhood Christmas before. Maybe, just maybe, he could be converted. Challenge accepted. The Tower, Chapter 2, Operation Christmas Conversion. Over the next few days, I watched the Winters house carefully. Okay, I know how that sounds. I wasn't stalking. I was strategically observing, through my window, with binoculars. Okay, fine, maybe it was a little stalky. But I had good reasons. I needed to understand this Ethan Winters character. What kind of person moves into the Christmas capital of the world and says they're not participating? There had to be a story there. What I observed was this. Ethan worked from home. Some kind of consulting business. Based on the number of video calls I could see him taking through his office window. Chloe was homeschooled, which explained why we hadn't seen her at Sophie's school. They didn't seem to have any friends or family visiting. No one came or went except for delivery drivers. And their house remained completely, utterly, devastatingly decoration-free. Meanwhile, the rest of Maplewood Lane was transforming into a Christmas paradise. The Hendersons were already halfway through their display, featuring a new addition this year. A massive snow globe that you could actually walk inside. Mrs. Peterson had added to her reindeer collection. The Johnsons had somehow acquired a fog machine for their winter wonderland. And our house? It was going to be spectacular. David and I had spent 3 days installing lights, and we weren't even halfway done. I'd hired a professional lighting designer named Marcus, who had worked on actual mall displays. We had lights on the roof, lights on the bushes, lights outlining every window and door. We had a 15-foot tree in the front yard covered in oversized ornaments. We had a life-size Santa's workshop scene on our porch. It was beautiful. It was magical. It was perfect. Except for the big black void of Christmas despair right next door. "You're obsessing," David said one evening as I stood at our bedroom window, staring at the winter's dark house. "I'm not obsessing. I'm concerned. For Chloe. That poor girl hasn't experienced a single Christmas joy since they moved in." "Emma, you don't know that. Maybe they celebrate differently. Maybe they're a different religion." "David, I literally heard him tell Mrs. Peterson yesterday that Christmas is a commercial scam designed to drain people's bank accounts and perpetuate materialistic values." His words, not a different religion, just a Grinch. "So leave him alone." "I can't. Sophie has been trying to be friends with Chloe, but Ethan won't let her come over. He barely lets that kid out of the house." This was true. Sophie had tried multiple times to invite Chloe to play. Every time Ethan would come to the door and politely but firmly say no. Chloe would look devastated, Ethan would close the door, and Sophie would come back to our house confused and hurt. "Maybe he's protective," David suggested. "They're new here. He doesn't know us yet." "It's been a week. Everyone else on this street took approximately 5 minutes to become friends." David sighed. "Emma, I know you want everyone to love Christmas as much as you do, but you can't force it. Some people just don't like it. But why? There has to be a reason. Normal people like Christmas." "That's not okay. You know what? I'm going to bed." "Try not to stage a Christmas intervention tonight." After David fell asleep, I did something I'm not proud of. I pulled up Ethan Winters on social media. I know. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and I needed to understand what I was dealing with. His Facebook profile was private, but his LinkedIn was public. Ethan Winters, management consultant formerly living in Seattle, previously worked at some big corporate firm. Nothing suspicious or weird. Then I found it. A 4-year-old Facebook post that was public, probably accidentally. It was from Christmas Day 4 years ago. A photo of Ethan, younger and smiling, with Chloe, who looked about 6, and a beautiful woman with blonde hair. All three wearing matching Christmas pajamas, standing in front of a massive Christmas tree. The caption read, "Best Christmas ever with my beautiful family." The woman who I assumed was Chloe's mother had dozens of comments on her timeline that I could see. "Beautiful family. Merry Christmas. Love the matching PJs." I scrolled further. Nothing else was public, but the pieces started falling into place. Ethan used to like Christmas. 4 years ago, he had a wife. Now he didn't. Now he hated Christmas. I closed my laptop, feeling guilty about my snooping, but also heartbroken for this man and his daughter. Something had happened. Something that had turned Ethan from a smiling guy in Christmas pajamas into a bitter Grinch who wouldn't even let his daughter make friends. Maybe David was right. Maybe I should leave them alone. But then I thought about Chloe's face when Sophie invited her over, that hope in her eyes before her dad shut it down. That kid wanted to have fun. She wanted to experience Christmas joy. And if her dad wouldn't give it to her, maybe I could help. Chapter 3, The Cookie Incident. My first official attempt at Christmas conversion happened 3 days later. I baked cookies. Now, I'm not trying to brag, but I make really good cookies. Like, people request them specifically for events good. My snickerdoodles have won the Church Bake-Off 3 years running. My chocolate chip cookies have been described as illegal. They're so good. If anything could break through Ethan Winters' icy exterior, it was my Christmas cookies. I made 6 different varieties. Snickerdoodles, chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin, peanut butter blossoms, sugar cookies decorated like Santa faces, and gingerbread men. I arranged them beautifully on my nice holiday platter, wrapped everything in festive cellophane with a big red bow, and added a little card that said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." Sophie helped me carry the platter next door. It was afternoon on a Saturday, so I knew they'd be home. We could hear music playing inside, not Christmas music, naturally. Some kind of classical piano. I rang the doorbell. Chloe answered, and her face lit up when she saw Sophie. "Hi," she said excitedly. "Hi, Chloe, my mum made cookies." "These are for you and your dad," I said, holding out the platter. "Just a little welcome gift." Chloe reached for them, but before she could take them, Ethan appeared behind her. "Chloe, go back to your homework." "But Dad, now, please." Chloe's face fell. She looked at the cookies longingly before turning and walking away. Ethan stepped into the doorway, physically blocking my view of the inside of the house. "Mrs. Richardson." "Emma, please." "I appreciate the gesture, but we don't accept food from people we don't know. We're your neighbors, and I made these myself. They're completely safe. Here, I'll eat one right now if you're worried." I grabbed a cookie and bit into it, chewing enthusiastically. "See? Delicious and non-poisonous." Ethan's expression didn't change. "It's not about poison. It's about boundaries. I'd appreciate it if you'd respect that. I'm just trying to be neighborly. By pushing Christmas on people who don't want it." "I'm not pushing. These are cookies. Everyone likes cookies." "They're Christmas cookies, shaped like Santa, wrapped in Christmas wrapping, delivered with Christmas cheer. It's all Christmas, Mrs. Richardson." "So what if it is? Christmas is wonderful. It's magical. It's a manufactured holiday designed to make people spend money they don't have on things nobody needs to impress people who don't care." I stood there stunned. Sophie was hiding behind me, peeking around at this man who was basically declaring war on her favorite holiday. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard," I said quietly. For just a second, something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Pain, maybe. Regret. But it was gone as fast as it appeared. "Have a good day, Mrs. Richardson." He closed the door, gently but firmly. Sophie and I stood there on his porch, holding a platter of cookies that were probably going to go to waste. "Mum," Sophie said quietly, "why doesn't he like Christmas?" "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'm going to find out." Chapter 4. The Great Decoration Escalation. If you can't beat them, blind them with Christmas lights. That became my new strategy. If Ethan Winters wanted to live in a Christmas-free bubble, fine. But he was going to have to do it while staring directly at the most spectacular Christmas display Maplewood Lane had ever seen. Over the next week, our house transformed into something that probably violated several zoning laws. Marcus, my lighting designer, worked his magic. We now had 75,000 LED lights. Yes, 75,000. A custom projection system that displayed animated snowflakes, reindeer, and Santa on our garage door. Musical light shows synchronized to 12 different Christmas songs, running every hour from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. A life-size nativity scene with motion-activated angels. Light-up candy canes lining our driveway. A massive Merry Christmas sign, visible from space. Okay, maybe just from the end of the street, but still. Animated snowmen that waved when people walked by. A 15-foot inflatable snow globe with a snowman inside. Icicle lights dripping from every possible surface. A speaker system pumping out Christmas carols. It was glorious. It was excessive. It was perfect. The local news even came to film it. Maplewood Lane's most spectacular Christmas display, they called it. They interviewed me for 5 minutes about my Christmas passion and my dedication to spreading holiday cheer. The night it premiered, half the neighborhood came to watch. We served hot chocolate and cookies, the ones Ethan had rejected. Everyone oohed and ahed. The Hendersons looked nervous. They knew they had competition this year. And through all of it, I kept one eye on the Winters house. The lights were off, the curtains were closed, no sign of life. Until about 10 p.m., when the curtain in what I assumed was Chloe's bedroom twitched open. I saw her little face pressed against the window, watching our light show with wide eyes. She stayed there for the entire final performance, her expression pure wonder. Then a larger shadow appeared behind her. Ethan. He stood there for a moment watching. I couldn't see his expression from that distance, but his body language was tense. After a minute, he pulled Chloe away from the window and closed the curtain. But I'd seen it. That little girl loved Christmas. She wanted to be part of it. Her father was the only thing standing in her way. "You're playing with fire," David warned me that night as we were getting ready for bed. "That display is pointed directly at their house. That's not intentional, that's just where their house happens to be." "Emma." "What?" "I can't help geography." "You're doing this to antagonize him." "I'm doing this to win the Christmas Cup. If it happens to show Ethan Winters what he's missing, well, that's just a bonus." David shook his head but smiled despite himself. "You're impossible. I'm dedicated. You're obsessed. Potato, potato." The next morning, I found out just how much my dedication was affecting our grinchy neighbor. I was in the front yard adjusting one of the candy cane lights that had gotten knocked askew by the wind when Ethan came storming out of his house. "We need to talk," he announced. "Good morning to you too. Your lights, they're shining directly into my daughter's bedroom. She can't sleep." "Oh no, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." "Yes, you did. You know exactly what you're doing." Okay, he had me there. "Look, Ethan, I can adjust them. I don't want to disturb Chloe, but these lights are staying up. It's Christmas. It's not even December 15th. You've had these lights up for 2 weeks. When does it end?" "January 1st, per neighborhood agreement." He looked like he might explode. "This is insane, all of this, the lights, the noise, the traffic. Do you know how many cars have been driving down our street every night just to look at your house? It's a circus. It's Christmas spirit. It's a nuisance." We stood there, glaring at each other across my perfectly manicured, Christmas-decorated lawn. In that moment, I realized this had become more than just about winning the Christmas Cup. This had become a battle of wills, a war of philosophies, a clash of Christmas titans. "I'll adjust the lights," I said finally, "but I'm not taking them down. Christmas is important to this neighborhood. It's important to my family, and whether you like it or not, you live here now. You're going to have to deal with it. Or maybe," he said coldly, "you'll have to deal with some consequences." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." He turned and walked back into his house, leaving me standing there with a growing sense of dread. What kind of consequences was he talking about? Chapter 5. The HOA Meetings War. I found out exactly what Ethan meant 3 days later when I received a notice from our homeowners association. Apparently, Ethan had filed a formal complaint about our Christmas decorations, citing noise ordinances, light pollution, increased traffic, and excessive visual disturbance. He was requesting that the HOA impose limits on decoration size, brightness, and operating hours. For the record, Maplewood Lane has never, in its 40-year history, had any restrictions on Christmas decorations. It was an unwritten rule. Go as big as you want. Christmas was sacred here. Until Ethan Winters showed up and tried to ruin everything. The HOA scheduled an emergency meeting. Every homeowner on the street showed up. The tension was palpable. Ethan sat on one side of the community center room, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. The rest of us sat on the other side, united in our Christmas-loving solidarity. Gerald Peterson, the HOA president and husband of the reindeer-loving Mrs. Peterson, called the meeting to order. "All right, everyone, let's keep this civil. Ethan, you filed a complaint regarding Christmas decorations. Would you like to present your concerns?" Ethan stood up, and I had to admit he was well prepared. He had a whole presentation with slides and data. Thank you, Gerald. I've prepared some information about the negative effects of excessive Christmas displays on neighborhood quality of life. He clicked his remote. A graph appeared on the screen. This shows the correlation between elaborate holiday displays and increased traffic accidents in residential neighborhoods, as you can see. That's a national statistic, Mr. Henderson interrupted. We've never had an accident on Maplewood Lane. Not yet, but the risk increases with... Oh, come on, Mrs. Peterson stood up. We've been decorating like this for decades. It's tradition. Tradition doesn't exempt you from being a public nuisance, Ethan countered. The room erupted in argument. People were standing up, shouting, pointing fingers. It was chaos. Order. Gerald banged his gavel. Everyone, please. Let's let Ethan finish his presentation, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. Ethan continued, showing slide after slide about light pollution affecting nocturnal wildlife, noise pollution, the music from our displays, traffic concerns, energy consumption, and something about property values that I didn't fully understand because I was too busy being furious. Finally, he got to his conclusion. I'm simply asking for reasonable limits, operating hours from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., sound levels below 60 decibels, lights that don't exceed a certain brightness, and perhaps a limit on the size of displays. These are common sense regulations that many HOAs already have in place. He sat down to silence. Then I stood up. May I respond? Gerald nodded. I didn't have slides, I didn't have data, but I had passion. And I had truth. Ethan, you've made some interesting points. And yes, maybe our displays are a bit excessive. Maybe they're loud. Maybe they're bright. But you know what else they are? Beautiful, joyful, magical. They bring happiness to hundreds of people every year. Kids come from all over town to see our street. Families make it a tradition to drive through Maplewood Lane. We've had marriage proposals happen on this street during Christmas. We've had elderly people in hospice make their last trip out just to see our lights. My voice cracked a little. I hadn't expected to get emotional. Christmas isn't just about decorations. It's about community. It's about bringing light to the darkest time of year. It's about reminding each other that there's still magic in the world, still reasons to smile. Still things worth celebrating. And yes, maybe we go overboard. But isn't that the point? To go overboard with joy. To be excessive with happiness. I looked directly at Ethan. You moved into a neighborhood that lives and breathes Christmas. You had to have known that. You chose this. And now you want to change everything because you personally don't like it? That's not fair to everyone else who was here first. I sat down. The room burst into applause. Gerald looked between us. Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor of implementing the restrictions Ethan has suggested. One hand went up. Ethan's. All opposed? Every other hand in the room shot up. Motion denied. The Christmas traditions of Maplewood Lane will continue as they have been. Ethan's jaw clenched. He stood up, grabbed his laptop, and walked out without another word. Everyone was celebrating, patting me on the back, talking about how we'd defended our traditions, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt sorry. Because I'd seen the look on Ethan's face as he left. It wasn't anger. It was defeat, pain, the look of someone who was fighting a battle they couldn't win, and they knew it. David caught up with me in the parking lot. That was quite a speech. Thanks. You still think you're doing the right thing? I watched Ethan's car pull out of the parking lot. I don't know anymore, I admitted. I want him to understand. I want him to see what he's missing. But maybe I'm going about it all wrong. Maybe, David said gently, you need to figure out why he hates Christmas so much before you try to make him love it. He was right, as usual. It was time for a different approach. Chapter 6, The Coffee Shop, Conversation. Tubbed. I found Ethan 3 days later at the local coffee shop. He was sitting alone at a corner table working on his laptop, a large black coffee next to him. I almost walked away. After the HOA meeting, I wasn't sure he'd even want to talk to me, but something made me walk over. "Can I sit?" He looked up, surprised, and clearly not pleased. "I'd rather you didn't." "I know, but I'm going to anyway. You can either sit here and listen or make a scene by leaving." He closed his laptop slowly. "What do you want, Emma?" "First name, Progress." I sat down with my peppermint mocha. "Yes, I'm basic. I own it." "I want to apologize." That caught him off guard. "For what?" "For being pushy. For not respecting your boundaries. For using my house as a weapon against you. That was childish." He didn't say anything, just watched me suspiciously. "Look, I know we got off on the wrong foot. Actually, we got off on the wrong foot, tripped down the stairs and face planted on the sidewalk. But I'd like to start over." "Why?" "Because we're neighbors, because your daughter and my daughter clearly want to be friends, and because—" I took a breath. "Because I Googled you. I saw that photo from 4 years ago, the Christmas picture with your family." His entire body tensed. "You had no right." "You're right, I didn't. But I did it anyway, and I'm sorry for that too. But it helped me understand. Something happened. Something that made you hate Christmas. And instead of respecting that, I've been shoving Christmas down your throat for weeks. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. It's understanding. Or at least an attempt at it." He was quiet for a long moment, staring at his coffee. "My wife died," he said finally. 3 years ago, December 23rd, car accident, black ice. She was coming home from last-minute Christmas shopping. My heart broke. "Ethan, I'm so sorry. The last thing we did together as a family was put up our Christmas tree. The last conversation I had with her was about what time Christmas dinner would be and whether we should invite my mother. Stupid, mundane stuff. And then she was gone. And I had to tell my 8-year-old daughter that Mummy wasn't coming home. On Christmas Eve. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't even try to hide them. We never celebrated Christmas again," he continued. I couldn't. Everything about it reminded me of her. The music, the lights, the decorations, all of it. So I stopped. I thought if I just ignored it, pretended it didn't exist, it would hurt less. Does it? He looked at me with the saddest smile I'd ever seen. No, it hurts exactly the same. But at least this way, I don't have to pretend to be happy. We sat in silence for a while. Other customers came and went. Life continued around us. But in our little corner, time stood still. "Chloe loves Christmas," he said quietly. "She tries to hide it, but I know. I see the way she looks at your house, the way her face lights up when she hears Christmas music in stores. I'm depriving her of something she loves because I can't handle my own grief. That's very self-aware. Doesn't mean I know how to fix it. Maybe you don't have to fix it all at once. Maybe you can start small. Let Chloe hang out with Sophie. Let them be friends. You don't have to participate in Christmas, but you don't have to prevent her from enjoying it either." He considered this. She'd like that. Being friends with Sophie? Sophie would love it too. She's been asking about Chloe constantly. I've been a terrible neighbor, haven't I? You've been a grieving widower trying to protect himself and his daughter. There's nothing terrible about that. He smiled a real smile this time, small but genuine. I'm not going to start loving Christmas again, Emma. I'm not asking you to, but maybe. Could you tolerate it just a little? For Chloe? I can try. It wasn't a victory, it wasn't a conversion, but it was a start. Chapter 7. Small Steps. Ed 12. The next day, Chloe came over to play with Sophie. It was tentative at first. Ethan stood at his front door watching, ready to intervene if necessary. But after a few minutes, he went back inside. The girls played in our backyard for 3 hours. They built a snowman. We'd gotten our first real snow the night before. They made snow angels. They came inside for hot chocolate and cookies. They played board games and watched a non-Christmas movie. When Ethan came to pick up Chloe, she was smiling wider than I'd ever seen. "Thanks, Mrs. Richardson," she said. "This was fun. You can come over any time, sweetie." Ethan met my eyes and nodded. Progress. Over the next week, a routine developed. Chloe would come over after her homeschool lessons were done. Sometimes she and Sophie would do homework together. Sometimes they'd play outside. Sometimes they'd just hang out in Sophie's room, listening to music and talking about whatever 10-year-old girls talk about. Ethan never came inside our house, but he'd stop and chat for a few minutes when he picked up Chloe. Small talk at first, whether neighborhood gossip, polite nothing, but gradually we started having actual conversations. He told me about his consulting work. I told him about my graphic design projects. He mentioned that he was thinking about enrolling Chloe in the local school after winter break. I offered to introduce him to some of the teachers. We were becoming friends, sort of, in a careful, respectful of boundaries kind of way. I toned down my Christmas display. Not by much, I still wanted to win that Christmas cup, but I adjusted the lights so they weren't blasting into Chloe's room. I lowered the volume on the music. I made sure our caroling parties ended by 9 p.m. instead of running until midnight. Ethan didn't complain. And then, 10 days before Christmas, something changed. I was outside adjusting a tangled strand of lights when I heard someone behind me. "Need help?" I turned to find Ethan standing there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable but determined. Sure, if you want." He came over and helped me untangle the lights. We worked in silence for a few minutes. "See,"